On today's episode, we will tell you what is Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z, and brace yourself, the latest generation, Gen Alpha. There's still jargons for me, Simrit.
Hi everyone, welcome to Talk to Us Today. So Namita, I started thinking about all these different generations when I was having a conversation with my son. I mentioned something to him and said, "Oh, you Gen Z," and he said, "Mama, no, I'm from Gen Alpha." And normally I'm quite up to date with all the new terminology, but I realized I didn't know what Gen Alpha was. We've heard all these terms, right? Oh, millennials, Gen Z, and while I was growing up, in Canada, I'd heard of the baby boomers, which was the generation which was born after the World Wars. The first baby boomer president, like America, like what, Bill Clinton or something. And so these things were heard. But now, like, I started thinking about there's so many changes in the world, and in a more macro sense, the change of personalities now. So we could say the changes are due to advancement in technology and digitalization. But it's not just that, right? The world and the environment has completely changed since we were kids. So let's do a quick dive into all these labels and understand how to create a better communication.
And Simrit, sometimes I wonder who labeled them. Like, how did it actually started? This labeling.
So I did take a look at that. So it's sociologists and psychologists and like determining different personality types and how they understand the mind. And then now the mind is affected by so many external factors, right? Of course, back in the silent generation, which was an adult when the world wars were going on, they also were a product of their environment. But communication is way too fast now. Information on your fingertips, maybe your fingernails now. So these are all labels that you do to understand the world and the citizens better.
Well, yeah. Well, it's just categorizing them.
Yes.
It's like, the category we fall in is like the sandwiched ones. So
I think every generation feels that when they have kids and adults around.
Yeah. So, Simrit, all these divisions of generations has always been fascinating for me, And it's like, do you know that earlier a generation gap was labeled as an average of 25 years, right? Between two people or group of people. But today, it is actually been redefined as being from different generations, which leads to different thoughts, ideas, and the attitudes leading to lack of understanding. So obviously, the earlier 25 years is now a whole universal gap. I feel every 10 years is like a generation gap now.
It is.
And although there are no fixed years for this, so you never know, this gap is going to reduce over the period of time, the way things are going. So broadly defining, which, I understood that Gen X are born between like 1965 to 1980, which is quite a good time. And Generation Y, that these are millennials. It's like me from 1980 to 1994. See, it's just reduced. And Gen Z from 1995 to 2009. And Gen Alpha is from 2010 to 2024. What next?
Right.
I don't know. What is next?
Only time will tell. Only time will tell.
Yeah.
So starting from the Gen X, right? That's me. This generation is considered to be the first generation that was exposed to working mothers. Before this, women only stayed at home. So working women became a trend in the 70s. So these were the children raised by working mothers, divorce, being brought up by single parents. So this was unique around the world. We're talking about really around the world. That was what Gen X was categorized by. But this also, like the fact that they had to start relying on themselves, this made this generation really resilient, independent from a young age. They knew how to cook. They knew after school. Yeah, exactly. So this generation was also the first one, the oldest one, which adapted to growing technology and digitalization. I remember as a kid, we used to say, "Oh, one day we're going to have telephones that you can hold in your hand and see people." And it would be like a fantasy. There was this called, I think I mentioned it before, Jetsons. It's a cartoon character made by Hanna-Barbera. And it was about, what the world would look like.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot. And some of it's still not real yet, but it will be in the next 10 years. But like seeing the cell phone, doing classes from sitting at home on the video cam, um,
Yeah.
traveling very fast from point A to point B. All these things are becoming real. And so
Yeah.
what was fantasy for us, we've learned to adapt with that growing technology
Yeah.
and
Still
digitization.
doing.
Also, I think everybody from my generation now gets primarily their news is either on their phones, or if they're little, if you want to sit back on television, and there's so many 24-hour channels. And this was not true while we were growing up. So this is a
No.
lot of change that happened in our generation. And we also, meaning this generation, valued a work-life balance. We are
Yeah.
known to question it. So we were done with like completely keeping quiet and bowing down to it. No, we question you and don't believe everything you read in here. And so it's a bit of a skeptical generation too, and I
I,
see it.
I
Like,
don't know. I feel it's very solid
yeah,
character generation. For me, it's
yeah,
I feel like there's a solid,
you're
solid character generation. They have
yes,
substance.
yes.
They have it.
And we have substance. We always feel that, right? And so we question a lot. And in relationships, very important. Gen X
Yeah.
values emotional connections and intimacy, but they were also one of the first generations worldwide. We're not just talking about the Western civilization, but they were one of the first generations that believed in getting to know their partners before getting married. And they valued marriages, but there was a lot of time spent getting to know each other. And since it was the rise of feminism, we also all value equal sharing in marriages. We were the first generation to do that. We didn't have
Yeah.
set roles for women.
So yes, Simrit, and carrying forward what Gen X, it's like adding more substance to Gen X is the millennials, I would say. So I think millennials
That's
were the,
you.
yeah, that's
You.
me. And it's, I sometimes do feel that, yeah, whatever the categorization has happened, or the way it's been defined somewhere, it does make sense. So the millennials were the last generation born in 20th century, and this generation is also known as Generation Me. So it's not just me in general, it's Generation Me.
Yeah.
It is because it is known for its self-centeredness, materialism, and laziness in general. Okay, not applicable to everyone.
Yeah, it's 0 for 3.
And yeah, because this generation concentrates on its self-image more and are considered to have short attention spans and hence self-centeredness. So yeah, totally like it. I feel a lost one. And they grew up with internet, rise of social media. They are first generation to fully grow up with mobile phones. So, and this is one of the generation to value diversity, which is a good part, and inclusivity, becoming more and more socially conscious. And we're slowly becoming more concerned with the environment. So, like, these are the positive side of it. Like, this is what they grew up with, being more conscious, being more aware of the environment. And I don't know, it's because the kind of education that is being provided, or they like maybe they themselves feel very sensitive to the environment. And in relationships as well, the millennials face communication challenges because of their reliance on technology and smartphones instead of face-to-face interactions. I remember growing up, Simrit, there was a Yahoo Messenger where you would make
Yes.
online friends, and you would, because that was so fascinating, oh wow, you feel like you were so connected through your heart. Oh, somebody is my friend. You wouldn't, I mean, it was just like, it was like a real friend. You would deal with them, and I've seen a lot of marriages happening through that as well. It was
A lot of
that
online
strong.
dating.
Yeah, online dating. Then later on to marriages, and these look like fairy tales. But that was that time, because everything, they were very serious about everything. Even technology was so fascinating, and they believed in everything that was happening. And Simran, they got married later than the earlier generations and had children later too. So there's a shift in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Whole
Right.
like
because you were growing up in India before like this whole blast of technology, you kind of are falling into Gen X, right?
mix.
Like,
Yeah, it's like
it's a mix. You're kind of like the cusp, as they say.
Yes, at the cusp.
I believe this because I think I was 32 when I got married, and it was like, oh my God, over the hill, she's done for. But today, 32,
just 32.
Yeah, it's normal. Yeah. And then now it's shifting, right? So yeah, I believe that. I mean,
so not even getting married.
Yeah.
They don't believe in marriage. So
Having kids later too. You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, so millennials are millennials.
But these generalizations are interesting, right? We said, why
Yeah,
do they do it? It's interesting how society, like watching this, I can see the timeline of society changing with time, right? Can't you?
yeah, yeah.
And coming to the famous Gen Z. Everyone knows Gen Z, the young,
Gen Z.
hip. They value individuality, inclusivity, but this generation that has grown up with the pandemic. So this was the one that was really affected because they were on the cusp of becoming adults, and yet they were just getting into it. So they've learned entrepreneurship from it. So it's really interesting because the pandemic affected them when they were not yet established. They learned how to get the best out of it. So they're known as the entrepreneur generation as well.
And
They learn how to use
there's something else that got added, Simrit, that they
Yeah.
understood the value of life somewhere. And
That's right.
so they have always the value of family, friends.
Yes. Yeah.
That
They
has,
understood like the emotional connections, right?
yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and they also learn how to use technology and digitalization to
Yeah,
their advantage.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they adapt to digital change and other changes the fastest, this generation, Gen Z. They
yeah.
prefer instant communication like messaging and have developed instant gratification. But that's, I think, slowly with time, that's unfortunately that's a whole different topic about why instant gratification may not be the best thing. But they're truly global citizens, these guys, because their first point of information is from online sources. So whether it's chat, it's going online, getting so everybody has access to the same information sources. So they're truly global citizens. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
So when you're
Yeah.
here in India, Africa, well, I don't know where there's controlled internet, but USA, South America, they all globally are exposed to the same music,
Same
to the
information.
same
Yeah.
film, fashion choices, books, and so they have similar options. That's the first time that happened because of
Yeah, and it's really interesting that now, see, our kids have friends from different countries. So in the classmates, they bond so well easily because they connect, because
so
it's
easy. Like imagine when I came in the 1980s, I was just talking to a cousin of mine yesterday, and I said, when I came from Canada, we used to tone down the accent, and I still try sometimes because then I remember, and otherwise because we were made fun of in school. Badi Canada se aayi or whatever, and we were understated. So if I had to travel to Canada every summer, I wouldn't even tell people because they'd make fun of me. But kids today, they're like so global. I'm going here. Of course, we understand the privilege, but even if they're not in that, it's normal.
Yeah.
If you've reached that level, it's normal. Even if somebody from not so privileged, they're going, good for them. Canada, they're going, Australia, they're going to Singapore. It's normal because travel has become very easy too, right?
Yeah.
And so it's
And
really
you are
more,
Simran, but there's one thing as well. I mean, I know. I mean, they're wonderful with all the technology and everything, very very global, but they are having tough time. They
so
are
that's what we're
having,
coming to.
yeah,
That's what we're coming to. So Gen Z is socially cautious, outspoken. They love luxury. They enjoy traveling, and
yeah,
they value experiences over materialism. This is true too. But unfortunately, this is the generation that's most prone to anxiety,
yeah,
social pressure, mental health. This is becoming a big issue for them from a very young age.
yeah.
Whether it's, I don't know what it is. It's a change. The climate, Earth disturbs them. They're facing those challenges. Now, the discussion revolving around mental health has never been higher. So it's also the generation that's growing up with the advantage of being able to discuss mental health and their emotions. But the reason is because mental health is becoming such a big issue. Their social anxiety, they're the most prone to depression from a young age.
And now for our youngest, and the one where both our children are Gen Alpha. Okay, this Gen Alpha is like, oh God, they just kind of
Alpha. You know what that means?
they Alpha,
looking at people stronger than us.
Yes, questioning straight away on their face, like, who the hell are you? How can you stop me? You're nobody.
Absolutely.
This generation is growing up in the era of digital schooling. So They understand virtual classrooms, the communication between teachers and students is completely changed. I'm going to write an email to my teacher about this.
Oh my God. No fear, right? These guys are bold.
Yeah, and they question their own teacher. Ma'am, no, that's not right. No, I don't think so. I think it is this way. I'm like, oh,
this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong.
And then when the teachers say no, it is like that. Oh, it's my perception, so it is right. This generation has the maximum number of single children, Simrit. So that is one big factor. They have access to everything. They name it and they have it. It's like that. And they know how to use the technology. And I'm sure they would have more challenges because the more the level of AI would come in, the technology would come in, they have to be more smarter how to use it in the best possible way.
So now we know all these different labels, right? How does it help us? Well, first of all, viewers, as an older generation, hopefully we're wiser. And I've heard many parents say that their kids know better because their exposure is more than ours ever was. Yeah. Hold on. This is true. It doesn't make them wiser. It just gives them more information. The processing unit still holds with us, okay?
Yeah.
So as older adults, the responsibility falls on us to share our wisdom and be receptive to what we can learn from them. If you're not, the communication will fail. If they're not willing to listen to our wisdom, the communication will fail. The generations need to learn how to work together. Gen X, a lot to offer. So don't sell yourself short yet. As do the millennials and the Gen Z and Alpha. And now more than ever, age does not matter, my friends. So let's try to relate to each other and step forward.
Well, that's all on Talktous today. Hope you enjoyed our show today. And if there is any topic or anything that you want us to discuss on our show, do mention in the comment section, or you can email us at hello@talktoustoday.com. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Stay notified of our new videos every Friday at 6 p.m.
Thank you for joining us on Talk to Us Today. Remember to talk about Talk to Us Today. Keep smiling, keep laughing, and keep talking. Thank you, guys.